do not know what anything is for. I 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 do not know what anything is for. Now look around and tell yourself, I do not know what this screen is for. I do not know what this guitar is for. I do not know. Just look around and tell yourself, I do not know what that tree is for. Whatever you see, I do not know what that is for. I do not know what that is for. Look around. I do not know what is for. I'll hum it, you think it. I do not know what that is for. Just look around yourself and say, I do not know what that bamboo is for. I do not know what that is for. I'll hum it, you say it yourself. I do not know what that is for. 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 I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm Forgiveness Willie, or Ozark Willie, or Forgiveness Willie from the Ozarks. Here on, well, it's actually a Thursday for me, preceding the Sunday for you, for lesson 25 for Sunday, January the 25th of 2026. Thank you all so much for joining me. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. Let's read through our lesson. If you were able to do it, look around and say to yourself whatever is in your field of vision, just something you see, and name it, and say, I do not know what that is for, or what this is for, or what that is for. Just looking around for a couple minutes. We're supposed to do that about, I think it said half a dozen times today. Let's look at the lesson. I do not perceive my own best interests. That was yesterday, excuse me. 11:25. I do not know what anything is for. Purpose is meaning. Today's idea explains why nothing you see means anything. You do not know what it is for. Therefore, it is meaningless to you. Everything is for your own best interests. That is what it is for. That is its purpose. That is what it means. It is in recognizing this that your goals become unified. It is in recognizing this that what you see is given meaning. You perceive the world and everything in it as meaningful in terms of ego goals. These goals have nothing to do with your own best interests because the ego is not you. This false identification makes you incapable of understanding what anything is for. As a result, you are bound to misuse it. When you believe this, you will try to withdraw the goals you have assigned to the world instead of attempting to reinforce them. Another way of describing the goals you now perceive is to say that they are all concerned with, in quotes, personal interests. Since you have no personal interests, only the ego can have personal interests. The self is unified with all, and what's good for you is good for all, and what's good for all is good for you. Since you have no personal interests, your goals are really concerned with nothing. In cherishing them, therefore, you have no goals at all, and thus you do not know what anything is for. Before you can make any sense out of the exercises for today, one more thought is necessary. At the most superficial levels, you do recognize purpose. Yet purpose cannot be understood at these levels. For example, you do understand that a telephone is for the purpose of talking to someone who is not physically in your immediate vicinity. What you do not understand is what you want to reach him for, and it is this that makes your contact with him meaningful or not. It is crucial to your learning to be willing to give up the goals you have established for everything. Crucial for our learning to give up the goals we've established for everything. And it's because what you do not understand is what you want to reach him for. And it is this that makes your contact with him meaningful or not. When you realize why you want to call your brother or sister or whoever, which everyone's your brother and sister, whether you see it or not yet, the meaningfulness is why you're talking to them. That is where the meaning can be found. It is crucial to your understanding, it is crucial to your learning to be willing to give up the goals you have established for everything. The recognition that they are meaningless rather than good or bad is the only way to accomplish this. The idea for today is a step in this direction. That they're meaningless, not good or bad. The recognition that they are meaningless rather than good or bad is the only way to accomplish this. The idea for today is a step in this direction. I do not know what anything is for. 6 practice periods, each of 2 minutes duration, are required. So 6 times today, 2 minutes each time. Each practice period should begin with a slow repetition of the idea for today, followed by looking about you and letting your glance rest on whatever happens to catch your eye, near or far, important or unimportant, human or non-human, with your eyes resting on each subject you so select. Say, for example, I do not know what this chair is for. I do not know what this pencil is for. I do not know what this hand is for. Say this quite slowly without shifting your eyes from the subject until you have completed the statement about it. Then move on to the next subject and apply today's idea as before. Real simple. We did one when we were opening, and we'll do one when we close. And we're supposed to be not seeing things as good or bad, big or small, just meaningless, until the Holy Spirit can give us a deeper understanding of what meaning is as we're united with all of our brothers and sisters and with the Holy Spirit. Okay, let's go take a look in our text reading. And we're in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception, Roman numeral 4, Error and the Ego. The abilities you now possess are only shadows of your real strength. All of your present functions are divided and open to question and doubt. This is because you are not certain how you will use them. This is because you are not certain how you will use them and are therefore incapable of knowledge. You are also incapable of knowledge because you can still perceive lovelessly. Perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity. The levels created by the separation cannot but conflict. This is because they are meaningless to each other. Okay, there's no meaning. We're learning about this in our workbook today. And I might mention here when he says only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity. What we want to do is look for unity. In every conflict, look for the oneness between you and your brother. Matter of fact, in A Course of Love, which a lot of you have been reading, we realizing that the only exercise, the first and only exercise that the Course of Love even gives us is to always look for unity. All of our conflicts come from not seeing our oneness, the atonement. Paragraph 2. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. What a good definition for the ego. Let me read it again. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Yet you can know yourself only as you are, because that is all you can be sure of. Everything else is open to question. Paragraph 3. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. It is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. We need to read that again. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. It is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. The mind is therefore confused, because only one-mindedness can be without confusion, unity. A separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. This makes its aspects strangers to each other, and this is the essence of the fear-prone condition, in which attack is always possible. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. This is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. You can never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation. 4. Right-mindedness is not to be confused with the knowing mind, because it is applicable only to right perception. You can be right-minded or wrong-minded, and even this is subject to degrees, clearly demonstrating that knowledge is not involved. The term right-mindedness is properly used as the correction for wrong-mindedness, and applies to the state of mind that induces accurate perception. It is miracle-minded because it heals misperception, and this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. Paragraph 5. Perception always involves some misuse of mind. Here, let's go back and read that last sentence again before the last sentence of paragraph 4. It is It is miracle-minded because it heals misperception. And this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. Paragraph 5. Jed. Hush. Perception always involves some misuse of mind because it brings the mind into areas of uncertainty. The mind is very active. When it chooses to be separated, it chooses to perceive. Until then, it wills only to know. Afterwards, it can only choose ambiguously, and the only way out of ambiguity is clear perception. The mind returns to its proper function only when it wills to know. This places it in the service of spirit, where perception is changed. The mind chooses to divide itself when it chooses to make its own levels, but it could not entirely separate itself from spirit, because it is from spirit that it derives its whole power to make or create. Even in miscreation, the mind is affirming its source, or it would merely cease to be. This is impossible because the mind belongs to spirit, which God created, and which is therefore eternal. And I might mention that he's using the word create to be anything that is the extension of God's creation in you. In other words, love created you loving, and as you love, you are creating and everything. But when you make things out of the mental constructs of the ego, he doesn't use the word create. He used the word you make. Okay? The ability to, paragraph 6, the ability to perceive made the body possible, because you must perceive something and with something. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Spirit which knows could not be reconciled with this loss of power, because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Thereafter, spirit is perceived as a threat, because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. Truth will always overcome error in this way. This cannot be an active process of correction, because, as I have already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. Let's back up a little bit. Let's look at this again. Spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. Truth will always overcome error in this way. This cannot be an active process of correction because, as I have already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. And paragraph 7, I think that's the last paragraph of this section. God and his creations remain in surety, and therefore know that no miscreation exists. Truth cannot deal with errors that you want. I was a man who remembered spirit and its knowledge. As a man, I did not attempt to counteract error with knowledge, but to correct error from the bottom up. I demonstrated both the powerlessness of the body and the power of the mind. By uniting my will with that of my Creator, I naturally remembered spirit and its real purpose. I cannot unite your will with God's for you, but I can erase all misperceptions from your mind if you will bring it under my guidance. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Without them, your choice is certain. Sane perception induces sane choosing. I cannot choose for you, but I can help you make your own right choice. Many are called, but few are chosen. Should be, all are called, but few choose to listen. And that's a quote out of Matthew chapter 22, verse 14. He's given us a little more meaningful way to look at that. Instead of all are called, but few are, many are called, but few are chosen. Should be, all are called, but few choose to listen. Therefore, they do not choose right. The chosen ones are merely those who chose right sooner. Right minds can do this now, and they will find rest unto their souls. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. And, you know, it does talk about in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9 that we're the chosen ones. But you have to make the choice yourself. We're a holy priesthood, he talks about. Okay, let's see. What's going on around the world? It's Saint Dwynwen's Day. She's the Welsh patron saint of lovers. Conclusion of the Christian week of prayer for unity, or for Christian unity is what it actually is, but you know my thoughts on that. We want to be unified with everyone and see our unity. Conversion of Saint Paul, or Saul of Tarsus, on the road to Damascus. Ashura for Muslims, and then it's Burns Night. He was the Scottish poet Robert Burns. A Room of One's Own, Child Labor Day, IV Nurse Day, Observe the Weather Day, Thank Your Mentor Day, and World Leprosy Day. Oh, I found another near-death experience that I'd encourage you to watch. It's the near-death experience of Bruce Van Natta, 36 minutes and 18 seconds. He saw some angels. He had that same experience. He left his body, looked down, didn't even want to go back to his body, didn't even know it was him. He kind of vaguely did. But he saw two angels work and resuscitate him. A truck fell on him and crushed him. Quite a wonderful story. I encourage you to listen to it. It points out how we're not the body and that peace is our true state, our reality. And for you multiple year students, original edition, read chapter 3, paragraph 51 through 60, The Loss of Certainty. Read Matthew 25. Iyengar Yoga, read page 39. And A Course of Love, chapter 5, start with paragraph 27 to the end of the chapter. Okay, and out of, let's see, we've got the Cherokee Trail of Tears bean. I've been looking for different beans. Also known as Cherokee Black, this variety is good as both a snap and a dry bean when mature. The greenish-purple 6-inch pods encase shiny jet black seeds. This bean was shared with Seed Savers Exchange by the late Dr. John Witch of Hugo, Oklahoma. His Cherokee ancestors carried this bean over the Trail of Tears, the infamous winter death march from the Smoky Mountains to Oklahoma, 1838 to 1839, that left a trail of 4,000 graves. Pole habit, snap or dry, 85 days to maturity, 1,600 seeds to the pound. So even smaller than the Kentucky Wonder pole bean or the bush bean. The more seeds per pound, obviously, the smaller the seed. Okay, let's see what else. Is there anything else I wanted to talk to you about? I'll put that description of how to get to the link to Bruce Van Natta's near-death experience in the description below. Okay, well, let's close. Let's do one more of our 2-minute practice periods as we close. I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for. Now look around and tell yourself, do not know what that is for. I do not know what that is for. I'll just hum it, but you say it. I do not know what that is for. 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 One more. I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for. And our word for peace is from the Egyptian, and it's Hetep. Hetep be with you. I do not know what anything is for. Hetep.